Can you make a list of all the different things that you can sell to your clients? This is something called the product ladder, and every business should have one. Why? Because this is where you make the profits in your business. In today's episode, we're going to talk through how to find your product ladder, how to put things in the right order, and how to get clarity on what to promote this coming year in your business. Let's get started.
Hey there, this is Corinna Bench, and welcome to the My Digital Farmer podcast. In today's market, it's not enough to just grow your product. You've got to know how to sell it too. Welcome to the My Digital Farmer podcast, where we reveal online marketing strategies and tips to help farmers like you get better and more confident at marketing. Learn how to find more customers, increase your sales, and build a strong brand for your farm. Let's start the show.
Well, welcome to episode 243 of the My Digital Farmer podcast. I am your host, Corinna Bench, one of the farmers at Shared Legacy Farms out in Elmore, Ohio. I'm also the founder of MyDigitalFarmer.com, which is all about trying to help other farmers like you get more confident and more savvy in your marketing and sales strategy so that you can grow a profitable business online. How's everyone doing today? Happy New Year. This episode will be dropping either the first Wednesday or the second Wednesday of January. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to take 2 weeks off from the podcast or just one. But this should be dropping at the beginning of 2024. And by the time it airs, I will have come back from a vacation to the West Coast with my family. We do 2 big vacations a year as a family now. And this year we're going to see the Redwoods up in Northern California. And I'm going to visit my brother, Sven, who lives just outside of Portland, and our cute little nieces and nephews. So I'm excited about that. Anyway, a big shout out to all of my regular listeners. Welcome back to the show. And if you are new to the podcast, I'm really glad you're here today. Make sure that you subscribe to the show and go check out some of my past episodes. I have over 240 of them, which is so crazy. I encourage people to go and listen to the first 10 to get started there, because when I designed them early on, I did record them in that order so that they could serve as kind of an onboarding into the marketing space. If you're really green when it comes to farm marketing, that's a great place to begin. But there's a ton of good stuff in the archives. You could really get an education in farm marketing just by listening to the free podcast. So feel free to binge. I have a lot of people that do that. Another way that you can get some marketing education is just to get onto my email list by subscribing at mydigitalfarmer.com/subscribe. And when you do, you're going to get an email from me every week, dripped out to you over the course of many months. And it's basically going to walk you through the roadmap that you need to know to learn the fundamentals of farm marketing. It's really good. I've gotten a lot of good feedback. So go grab that. It's free. mydigitalfarmer.com/subscribe. If you decide you don't like it, just unsub. In today's episode, I'm going to be asking you to audit your farm's product ladder. And if you're wondering, what the heck is a product ladder? Then this episode is for you, because this is one of the key marketing fundamentals you should know about as a farm business, because this is where you make your profits. So let me start by telling a quick story that illustrates the product ladder at work. We just came out of Christmas season, and if you're like most people, you were asked to come up with a list of things you might want for Christmas. And one of the things that I wrote down on my list was an exit game. If you live in the United States, you may be familiar with these. I'm a huge game person. I love to play board games, but I especially love to play escape room games. I find the logic puzzles in them and the riddles really fun to try and solve. And my brother-in-law, Derek, is also really good at this. And actually, the two of us just love to get together and geek out. And my son, Josiah, likes to play along too. Anyway, there is a brand known as Exit, EXIT, And they create these escape room games. They come in a box. They're like $13 a box. And it's basically a one-time use game. You open up the box, you hear the riddle or you hear the story, and then you enter into the escape room. And then you have 10 different puzzles that you have to work through to try and get out and solve the problem. The first time I did this, it was so fun. I was so bad at it. I think we completely failed. There's like a scorecard at the back, and we took way longer than you're supposed to. But we had a blast doing it. And I immediately said, oh my gosh, I want another one. And so I went to the bookstore and found another box, and I brought that one home. And at our next family function, Derek and I worked on that game, and it was a blast. And I found myself wanting to collect them. So then I started going to Amazon, because at the bookstore, they only had so many options. So then I was going to Amazon and I was looking up what are all the different ones that there are. And I started making a list. So when my husband asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and when my mother-in-law asked me what I wanted for Christmas, I didn't just say I wanted an exit game. I actually wrote down the specific boxes that I wanted, because I've done so many now that I didn't want them to accidentally buy one of the games that I've already completed. So I said, well, I want the Professor's Last Riddle, and I want Return to the Abandoned Cabin, and Kidnapped in Fortune City, right? I mean, I literally had a list of 7 boxes so they could choose from some of those. And this is a great example of a product ladder. The exit game, when they first came up with this concept, put a few escape room games out into the world to see if people would buy them. And as people did and enjoyed them, now the opportunity for them as a business to profit was to create more games, more riddles, more of these boxes to sell to people, so that super fans like myself would begin to just binge through all of them. And this is how the exit game enterprise is making their money. They're making it on the first purchase, but what they really want is to find those people that are going to buy every single one of them. And if they can create 30, 40, 50 versions of this game, some of those people are going to buy almost all of them. And if you do the math, that's a nice profit margin. This is how we need to think about our business as well. Every business needs a product ladder. And if you are saying, I'm not making enough money in my business, there's several things that could be going on there. One of them, though, could be that you just don't have enough products to make offers with. And so one of your challenges this year may be, I might have to create some new products in my product suite, or new ways of bundling them. But it might be outright products. Maybe you just have one thing. Like if you're just a CSA, like a traditional CSA, which we were at the beginning of our time, back in 2008, 2005 to 2013, all we did was sell the 18-week traditional CSA box. And once we sold those, that was it. We didn't have another thing they could purchase on week 3. I guess we did try to get people to buy bulk corn once that came in August, but there was no other call to action. It was like, that was the one time you could buy in the year. And then at the end of the year, we tried to get you to renew and buy again for the next season. And we got a big load of cash intake at that point. And that was a model that was broken. That wasn't going to make us more money. We soon learned that we had to have more things in our product ladder so that we could come to those same clients and say, oh, I'm glad you liked this. Now, do you want to buy this? And trust that they would say yes. So what is a product ladder? Let's just quickly try to define that. I don't have a nice little definition all written out here, but it's essentially a list of all the different products that you sell in your product suite, and in the order in which you would offer them to your clients. Because the sequence of the products does matter to some extent. You're not going to lead with your most expensive product in your product suite. You're going to start with your gateway product that you know most people love, and that's a lower risk financially, that gets them in the door, that gets them spending money with you, that gets them to put that credit card into your online store app, right? And now it's saved there. And that hurdle of having them enter in that card number is gone. Then you have the next offer, which is the obvious next step. And then the next offer, well, I think you liked this, so you're probably going to like this. That is the product ladder. And when you look at your business right now, I want you to just do a quick audit. Do you have a pretty good ladder? Are there a fair amount of things in it? Or maybe another way to ask this is, are all of these items in the same sort of price point? Do you have any that are a little bit higher up and that are more elite in terms of their pricing, that only a certain number of people would want to graduate to? That's actually something you want to have. You don't want to just have everything in the same low tier price point, because then you can't really graduate people to another profit level for you. So you want to have a mix of items in that product suite, some that are going to be attractive to some people in your group, some that'll be more attractive to other avatars in your client list. That's okay, because we're always taking people somewhere. Okay, so that's kind of what the product ladder is. And if you're scratching your head right now and you're thinking, I only have one or two things in my product suite, then I want you to take a look at your bank account and I want you to say, well, am I struggling to make income? If the answer is yes, then one thing you might try is adding some more products in the product suite so that you can make more offers. The way we make more money in our business, my friends, is by making offers, by making more offers, selling more things. So we need to have a product ladder. It's all about the return buyer. It's about getting the customer who's already bought from you to come back and either buy that same thing again, which is easy in our industry because people do need to keep eating. Right? It's not like they just buy a widget and then they have that widget forever and they don't need another one. Like, people need to come back and refuel. They need to have food. So that's one advantage we have. So a lot of your customers are going to come back and just buy the same thing they bought last time. But we also want them to graduate and experiment and try other things and kind of expand their culinary palette. And this concept of the lifetime customer value is a really important thing to understand here. Lifetime customer value is the total amount of revenue that one customer spends with you over the lifetime of their relationship with you and your business. And we sometimes forget about the LCV, about lifetime customer value. We focus so much on the individual sale, like, oh, I need to get them to buy this one thing this week, that we don't always remember, oh, if I can do the work that is required and invest in this marketing asset right now to attract this client into my ecosystem, I'm willing to spend this much money to acquire this lead because I know that this customer may end up spending $7,000 with me over the life of their time with me. And that is so worth the $10 cost that I'm spending right now to acquire them as a lead, right? So we often kind of forget about that lifetime value that they bring into us. And that's why I want you to really focus on that. When we have a product ladder, then we are pretty confident that we can actually track it with our data too. We can see, well, the average customer spends this much with me in 1 year. So every time I acquire a new person on my email list, and every time I can convert that person into a buyer, I'm pretty sure that eventually they'll turn into this type of spender with this lifetime customer value. When I think about how much money we have spent on our boys' Legos, it kind of makes me crazy. Right now, the brand that they're really into is a brand called Flight Test, FLITE-TEST, for all of you who want to get your boys into RC airplanes or girls. And Flight Test does such a good job with us. I'm gonna pick on them right now. I know they're not in the food industry, but they have a great example. They are a great example of the product ladder, because first they rope you in by creating these hilarious videos on their YouTube channel. I mean, these guys are just inventors. They are curious. They like to have fun. They just love to fly airplanes, and so their enthusiasm for their product is very evident. I think they would do this even if they didn't make money. They just love to create. And if any time you can come from that space, by the way, if you are unattached to the result, you are unstoppable. But I love the fact that they are so into flying, and that translates for sure in their videos. So first you just get pulled in and you want to watch them fly all kinds of weird things. Like they have a video where they tried to get a toilet to fly. And my son showed that to me and I thought, wow, these are awesome people. I love this. Eventually, you get to the point where you want to actually try to fly too. Flight Test offers free downloadable plans of all their kits. So if you want to take the time to download them and trace them out onto foam board, you can get by with making as many planes as you want for pretty cheap. They also have build videos on YouTube, so you can literally watch them build the different planes step by step with your little hot glue gun and put it all together. It's pretty slick. Now, here's where they end up making their money, because people who try that, which is what my kids did, they did actually download the plans, trace them all out on foam board. After they did that once, they realized how much time that took. And when they saw that they could just buy the kit that was already stamped out and, just cut out the kit, they're like, I want to do that instead, especially because they were only like $15, right? So a pretty low entry point. Flight Test even tells you this is the kit you should buy first. As a beginner, you want to learn on this plane. Don't get one of the more complicated planes. So that was really helpful. And once they learned and got the bug, for flying RC airplanes, then they came back to mommy and said, hey, mommy, could you please get us this plane for Christmas? Or now we want these two planes, or we want to spend our own money and buy these sets. So slowly but surely, they have been going through the entire product line of Flight Test, and they have done many of the kits that Flight Test sells. They've also, of course, been upsold and ended up having to buy different types of engines and propellers, because those are the things that break as you're building the planes. They've bought their fair share of hot glue and glue guns and all of the things that are required to put this together. I mean, it is brilliant. So, Flight Test is a great example of showing us how to build this product ladder. They're really clear about these are all the things that a person needs in order to get into the hobby. Here's what you do first. Now you're going to buy this kit. Then we recommend these kits. And now we're going to keep building kits. And so every few months, there's a few new types of World War II planes that have been created and new kits they can buy. And sure enough, my kids come to me and say, now I want to do that. This podcast is sponsored by the Thriving Farmer podcast. Today, we are starting the Farm Business Minute with Michael Kilpatrick from the Thriving Farmer podcast. For the last few weeks, Michael has been sharing valuable business tips. Let's dive in to the question of the week. All right, Michael, my question for this week is, if I've been quote unquote successful as a farmer, should I expand? Should I scale, or when is enough enough?
That's a great question. And after working with farmers for now probably at least 10 years, one of the biggest mistakes I see people do is I've been successful, and then they decide I'm going to do it 4 times this year. And then they're left with a pile of weeds, less produce than they had the year before, and burnt out. And so what I like to say to people, look, if you're successful at a 1/4 acre, do a 1/4 acre and just tighten up your systems. My friend Ray Tyler, he is now he's doing well over $500,000 on an acre and a half. And so the potential on a very small amount of land is incredible. My mentor, Paul Arnold up in New York, he said, Michael, every year we grow less and less product, we cut acreage, and we make more and more money. So it's not the aspect of having to grow more. It's the matter of taking care of what you grow better. So, make sure the weeds are gone, making sure you're putting on the nutrients exactly when you need to, making sure you're, doing the best systems and processes around that, working on making sure every single jalapeno pepper gets sold and you don't have a few left over. So I think that's the big one for me is don't start, don't go just because you've had success. Now, when you should expand is, when you have a track record of a couple years of doing the same thing again and again. Okay, we got our processes in place. Let's start slowly adding a little bit of land or another enterprise. Or maybe you're going to bring on a full-time team member and that's been with you in the past, and they really want to take something underneath their wing or a new enterprise, then they want to start working with you on that. So I see that as successful too. Another thing I would say is, what if you take what you already have, but start value adding it more? So you're going to farmers markets and you're doing salad mix, but what if you start doing a line of prepared salads? Obviously that takes a kitchen. Kitchens are not that expensive, pretty easy to set up. But that's an easy way to just increase your revenue revenue and not have to grow anything else. So there's a lot of things there to look at. But if you're looking at where you're starting to consistently see a 30 to 40% profit margin in your business, then I would say you're starting to get to that point where you may be willing to expand and really go for it. But I would say the number one challenge we see is people that expand too quickly, get burnt out, and end up flaming out completely.
Yeah, I think the other question to ask is like, what do you want outside of the business? What are some of your other just life personal goals? Because sometimes the business can end up sabotaging some of those other goals as you try to grow it. And that's always the danger when Kurt and I are discussing, should we expand? Should we take this opportunity? We're always wondering, well, yeah, it would make us more money, but at what cost? What is that opportunity cost? Are we going to end up giving away more of our time? Is it really going to be worth what we end up investing into it? So I wonder there, I feel like we're always chasing the next thing. And at some point you kind of have to say, well, what else do I want in my life? And that needs to be factored into the equation. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. And I think I said in one of the other tips is, looking at your goals. So yeah, that comes back to that, is you've got to look at your goals. What's your end goal? What's your right now goal? And I think the biggest thing too is do not overcommit, because that's when you start to see burnt out farmers. And I hate seeing that. And we've also heard the expression in the farming community, angry August, where literally in August, people start to just lose it. And thankfully this year, I think we have a fabulous team right now. So I have kept myself in check and we've been doing great. But I would say last year I got burnt out and I really started, we lost a team member because I ended up speaking to them when I shouldn't have. So yeah, thinking about that, but thinking of what your goals are, what you want to get from life, and what is this for you? Is this, is this need to be your full-time income, or is it a great, weekend thing that you and your family do together? So there's nothing wrong with that. I like to see people growing in all shapes, sizes, and there's no shame in saying, yes, I do have an off-farm job. Now people that are full-time farmers, they take special pride in that. There's nothing wrong with that either. But I think the world of agriculture is huge and we need all types.
That was your farm business tip of the week. Check out the Thriving Farmer podcast with Michael Kilpatrick on your favorite podcast app. And now back to the show. So I want you to picture a staircase, because a product ladder is a lot like a staircase, and your products are sort of stacked up along this staircase. At the very bottom are the ones that are lower value, low ticket, easy point of entry into the brand. And then the next step is maybe a little bit more expensive, and so forth, until you get all the way up to the top step, which is a high dollar amount. Not very many people buy it, but it's sort of your elite product. And in the perfect world, your brand should have items along this continuum. So now I want to ask you, what does your product suite look like? If you had to map it out in the order in which you want to take people, what would it look like? So I'm going to pick on a meat producer, someone who has chicken, pork, and beef. And so you might start at the very bottom with eggs. That would be at the bottom of your product ladder. That's pretty low entry point, not very expensive, and it's also very popular. Maybe after that, you want to encourage people to buy chicken breasts because it's probably the most popular cut of the meat of the chicken, and that's where you encourage people to begin. Perhaps then you get them to graduate and move more to like chicken bundles, where you move larger amounts of chicken all at once. Then you introduce them to your pork cuts. Perhaps the bacon or the sausages are the most popular, and that's where you encourage them to buy those individually. Maybe you create bundles from out of there, then you move them on to beef and say, hey, would you like to start with my steaks? Or you create a ground beef bundle. Or maybe you've even got like value added stuff like dog food or jerky. Maybe you do long table farm events. Do you see what I mean? Like, you're just kind of thinking through, what are all the different things that I could offer to my people, and what is the order in which I like to introduce them to it? And if you do, let's say, half hogs or sides of beef, that could even be thrown in there as well. So what I want you to do first is just inventory all of your items. Now, this could be done by item, by category of item. It could be done by promotion. Sometimes that helps me to think about what are my big promotions every year. And that's kind of how I find the different products in the product suite. It could also just be by promotional driver. So there are some specific vegetables that are very popular with my crowd. And I know that if I turn those into a special or I highlight them in my promotions in some way, it'll drive people to the store where they'll not only get that thing, but they'll get a whole bunch of other things as well while they're in there, and they increase the average order value. I'm actually working on this right now. It's the beginning of the new year. This is when I put together my promotion plan. And I actually have an entire project inside of Farm Marketing School, a 30-day project that walks you through the process of building your annual promotion plan. If you want to go and take that, you can join Farm Marketing School. Just head to mydigitalfarmer.com/FMS to learn more about that. But I'm going through this process right now, and I'm thinking through, okay, what last year did I sell? What were the big drivers? What were the promotional drivers? What were the different categories of things? When are the big promos happening? So for example, for me, I have a big plant sale that happens in February is when I promote that. We don't actually deliver on it until May, but there's a huge promo around plant sale. And that's a sizable amount of income in our retail sales. That kind of gets its own section in my product ladder because I want people to move through that and I want people to buy transplants. I have obviously my 18-week CSA. I have my 4-week CSA sampler, which is the trial membership. That's definitely in my product suite. That's earlier on before I pitch the CSA, right? But it's in there. And then I have add-on shares for my CSA. I don't want to forget to upsell people and try to get them to buy the fruit share or the cheese share because those have some good profit margins for me. I do have an affiliate, a CSF that I work with in Alaska. And so I try to mix that in there as well. And then, of course, I have my weekly online store, which is another big driver. And frankly, it's the one that's growing in our business. And so I'm looking at, okay, within the weekly store where people come and just buy things a la carte, I can identify specific drivers like the asparagus season, the gooseberries season, the sweet corn, the tomato, the bulk tomatoes, the melons, the watermelons are really big drivers. Blackberries are really big drivers. So I have kind of identified what some of these specific products are in the product suite that seem to create a lot of energy and hype, and I promote those. And then I have like my Thanksgiving pop-up share at the end of the year, which is one of our last big promos that drives a ton of income because we do the Feed the Need bags at that time, right? So I'm mapping all of these things out. I'm writing them down. What are the products that give me an excuse to talk about them, right? That give me a chance to promote myself and say, here's something special that I want to tell you about. Then I want you to put them in order. So if you could guide your customer through a curated process, like what would it be? Because you're always taking your people somewhere. You are the guide for your customer. Your customer is the hero in this story. You need to tell them where to go, and you have a recommended course of action. First buy this, and then buy this. It's almost like, well, if you liked this, I'm pretty sure you would like this, and you introduce them to the next offer, okay? So put them in that order. And then, of course, the final step is that you have to actually make offers. This is where you make your money, my friends. So if you don't make offers, you won't make more money. Now, some of you are going to a farmer's market each week and you are relying on your customers to just remember to show up or to have that in their habit that they always go to the market, and hopefully they're going to walk by your stand and visit you. And I want to just make sure, those of you who do a farmer's market, I'm pretty sure you do this, but hopefully you show up at that market after you lay out all your wonderful stuff there for people to look at. Hopefully you do have 1 or 2 items that you are sort of promoting that week, that you want people, that you're featuring, that you really want people to buy. And if you haven't ever thought of doing that, well, this is sort of your coaching moment here where I'm going to say, hey, you should. Because you want to be able to tell your customer when they come and say hello to you for the first time, you want to be able to guide them and say, I recommend this. This is something that people really like. This is something I'm confident you're going to like. You should definitely start here. And then you also want to have your item that is featured, that's maybe seasonal. It's not going to be around too long, that you want to steer them towards potentially as an upsell. Now, hopefully, I'm also going to encourage you here to get people onto your email list or onto a text list, because you want to be able to communicate these offers to them in advance. The offer functions as a lure, as a piece of bait to get them to come to the market. Even better if you can have an online store, like we use Local Line, but there are lots of other types of e-commerce platforms out there. But if you can get people to commit in advance and say, yes, I want to pre-buy such and such from your online store, I'll come pick it up from you at the market, even better, because now that money is in the bag, it's pre-sold, and you can have that ready to go for that customer, and you can train them to become that kind of a client. So getting people's contact information is so important here when you're building your product ladder. In order to be able to tell people what your offers are, you need their contact information. You need to be able to tell them what your special offer is, that irresistible offer that they cannot back away from, that will cause them to go to the market or to your online store and decide to buy. Now, people often ask me what email service provider I use. I'm a big fan of ConvertKit. I've had a lot of farmers switch over to that and say that they love it. I am an affiliate for them. There's only a few companies that I'm an affiliate for. This is one that I really love. So mydigitalfarmer.com/ConvertKit. But there's also Drip and ActiveCampaign are the other two that I also like, so you can check those out as well. One more point here. Anytime you can automate this process, that's even more powerful. And you can do that once you have a text service or an email service provider, because you can build automated email tracks that people get taken down once they get onto your email list that essentially pitch them the products in your product ladder in the order in which you want them to be pitched. You can set the timing, you can set the messaging around it, you can even exclude certain people based on tags. It's pretty powerful. So you learn all this stuff when you study email marketing. I have an email foundations class inside of Farm Marketing School, which is really awesome. We also have a Build a Better Offer challenge class, and we have a weekly email challenge as well, project inside of Farm Marketing School. So this is all stuff you can learn how to do pretty quickly, and it makes a huge difference. But you do need to have a product ladder. You need to have things to sell, more than one thing, if you want to increase that customer lifetime value. The very last thing I want to bring up here before I wrap up is, can you build and encourage habits to form around your product and the things that are in your product ladder? And this is very evident within Flight Test. I'm going to go back to the RC airplane company that my boys love so much. They're great at this because they have these certain triggers that happen in their business on a regular basis that cause their customer base and their fans to come back to the platform and check out what they're doing, or come together as a community and experience their identity as a RC airplane enthusiast. They have created these moments in the journey that essentially encourage buying habits. So, for example, my kids were asked to attend Flight Fest, which is an annual event that they have in Ohio. People come from around the country to go to this event. So it's so cool that we happen to live in Ohio and it's like right in our backyard. Thousands of people will come and they all just fly their RC airplanes around together. And they have these events where everyone just throws their plane into the sky. There's something called combat, where they're trying to knock each other's planes out of the sky. So they all bring their really trashy planes that they're ready to let go of, right? And it's just so fun to watch people play together in the sky like that. And then they have these huge build tents. So when you're not doing combat, you're going off into these tents and you're going and buying some of the kits from the store that are there. And then you're going to the build tents and you're building all day, and you're meeting other people that are also really into the hobby, and you're getting to meet the founders. And it creates this sense of community identity. Like, I'm an RC airplane enthusiast. I'm an aviator, sort of what's happening in those moments. And because it's such a powerful experience, people want to come back and do it again. So it becomes an annual habit. Like, we all make the trek like a pilgrimage to Flight Test and go to Flight Fest once a year. That's an example of how they've created a habit around an event. And as a result of that, it creates more and more buying behavior around the product. They have habits like, your engines are going to break. The nature of this product is such that things will break from time to time, and you will have to go and buy more propellers. And every now and then you'll have to buy an ERC. Is that the right word? I think that's the word for the engine. And when you're in the store buying those, you go, you know what? While I'm in here, I'm going to throw in some hot glue sticks, and I'm going to throw in that kit that's only $40 because it's really cool looking. So the very nature of the hobby itself is that things break and they have to come back and buy again. So you have these kinds of buying habits that you can create in your customers too. They're really easy because everybody needs to eat, but there might be some traditions that you can help create with your products, so that a person always thinks of your product when they want to reinstitute that tradition in their family. So an obvious one might be Thanksgiving turkeys. And if they happen to buy your turkey and it's amazing and they can taste the difference, then the next year they're going to lock themselves in and say, I want to go they're going to remember, I want that turkey. It's got to be from Witt Farms in Ohio, and they're going to go get it from you, because it was so great. And you got to make sure that you are, on top of that. And if you need them to make that commitment early, then you ask them that as early as possible, get their deposit, and now you've locked them in. And that may not be in November. You may have to ask for that a whole lot earlier, right? But you want to build these buying habits around your products. So what could that look like? I'm sure you have some that are already working for you. Maybe it's good for you to spend some time identifying them, and then you can more intentionally leverage them in the next year during your promotion plan. Okay, my call to action from today's episode is I want you to build a product ladder if you don't have one already, or at least take the time to inventory your items and put them in the right order. Well, I don't want to say right order. There isn't right or wrong, but what is that ideal order that many of your clients tend to take as they travel through your brand? And the second thing I want you to do, if you're not already doing it, is I want you to start collecting email addresses. Because if you are one of those farmers at a farmer's market and you're not doing this yet, you are missing an opportunity to drive more sales. Get some of those people's email addresses so that you can let them know you're going to be there, tell them what the special offer is going to be, and maybe even try to get them to commit and buy before they show up, so that they have to come and pick up the order from you. And in the process, you might even upsell them when they arrive and get them to buy a second time. Okay, my friends, that's all I have today. If you're interested in learning more about Farm Marketing School, this is my monthly membership where farmers can come in and build marketing assets one at a time in special 30-day build projects that I've created for you. Right now, there are like 8 projects inside of Farm Marketing School, and every month a new one gets added. And you basically subscribe for 30 days, or you can stay in for a couple months or 3 months. You can stay in the whole year. But what you're doing is you go inside and you decide, this is the project that I want to work on. You take the class, the workshop class that's recorded, you just watch it, and then you build it yourself. So this is the DIY version of Accelerator. There's no coaching element or mastermind or Zoom meetups. It's just you going in there, watching the class that the accelerators saw live with me, and then working on it on your own. So if you're a DIY type of person and you think you can do it yourself, this is an amazing resource. There are projects in there for how to build a promotion plan, how to build your email nurture sequence, how to write a great weekly email, how to build the website homepage messaging, what goes on that homepage, how to build a lead magnet, and more. So if you want to see what's in the Farm Marketing School, you can head to mydigitalfarmer.com/FMS. And I encourage you to subscribe for 1 month. Check it out. I have a whole onboarding, like a crash course in marketing, that I encourage you to take in your first week. There's an assessment inside of there that's going to help you know which elements you should build first. It's so good, and I would love it if you would give it a shot for a month. Let me know what you think, and if you decide you like it, you can stay in there for several months in the off season and get a ton of your marketing stuff done. All right, my friends, that's all I got. Today's show notes can be found at mydigitalfarmer.com/243. If you like today's episode, please go leave me a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts, or even better, copy the link of this podcast episode and share it with a farmer friend and say, oh my gosh, I just found this really great marketing podcast for farmers. You totally have to check this out, My Digital Farmer. So if you want to just forward this to someone, that would be awesome as well. I'm just trying to make as many people aware as possible that there is an amazing marketing resource for farmers out there, and it's totally free. Now, if you want to get onto my email list, remember I've got some free stuff to send your way to help you become a better farm marketer. You can grab that at mydigitalfarmer.com/subscribe. And if you want to be on the show, if you've got a cool innovation, or maybe if you just want to have your sales funnel audited with me, I'd love to talk with you. Why don't you reach out to me? You can email mydigitalfarmers@gmail.com, and I will see if it's a match, and maybe you'll be on the show. We can meet, we can chat about your business. I believe that every single person has something that they can share with us. Even if you're at the beginning of your journey, we can kind of take ourselves back to what it was like to start and pull out some of those lessons. There are a lot of beginning farmers that listen to this show, and sometimes those are some of my best guests. So don't be afraid to reach out. You guys have a wonderful week. I will catch you next time for another episode of the My Digital Farmer podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.